Ladies and gentlemen, all courtesies observed. As we stand here on the doorsteps of the Anthropocene, we've reached a place in which multilateralism matters more than ever. Earth has one climate system and it has one ocean. Thus, in response to all we have learnt from the consensual conclusions of the best of our environmental scientists, a global approach must prevail in order to secure the future of life on this planet. You're all aware of the main findings of the recent reports released by the IPCC and IPBES, so I won't repeat them. But it goes without saying that everyone in positions of responsibility today has to sharpen their thinking on the actions required. We now know that planet Earth has entered a climate emergency, and science is in broad consensus on the grave challenges ahead. Around the world, people are already suffering the damaging effects of climate change, not least in the Pacific Islands region from which I hail. And they're rightly demanding action to protect nature, to avoid more disasters and further human suffering. To address these threats, Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called upon national leaders to come to the Climate Action Summit here in New York at the United Nations on the 23rd of September, ready to announce their plans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions for 2030 and to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. Ladies and gentlemen, the ocean's health is in deep trouble, and the common enemy is our greenhouse gases. Whether it's ocean warming, deoxygenation, or acidification, the driving force is anthropogenically created greenhouse gases. And when you stop to consider the effects of that trio of escalating oceanic trends, be sure to include rising sea levels, extermination of coral, the disruption of marine ecosystems, and steadily deteriorating conditions of life for marine fauna. Because we love our children and our grandchildren more than we love the comforts from which those greenhouse gases are derived, we must radically transform our consumption and production patterns. That is the great calling of our times. Ladies and gentlemen, the choice is not between optimism and pessimism. It's between action and inaction. So let us all be hard-nosed pragmatists in efforts to boost our regional commitments to the implementation of the Paris Climate Agreement, raising the levels of our nationally determined commitments, and sticking the course on the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. On these points, I've no doubt I'm preaching to the choir at this first meeting of the Marine Regions Forum. I know the Forum supports a transition towards integrated ocean governance. I know you are developing and implementing a new format at the interface of science and marine policy for solution-oriented learning and exchange amongst different marine regions. Put that format into action, and I believe we will see real progress in the implementation of SDG 14, the ocean's goal. Ladies and gentlemen, the Forum's existence goes back to commitments made by Germany and the European Union at the UN Ocean Conference in New York in June 2017 for the formation of a multi-stakeholder platform for regional ocean governance. As such, I'd like to take this opportunity to give thanks to the German government and the European Commission, as well as the IASS, IDRI, and TMG as co-hosting partners, for delivering on that commitment. Bringing together collective knowledge from regions around the world has to be a positive step towards the success of the UN Ocean Conferences and the UN Decade of Ocean Science. Both of these universal UN initiatives include a regional perspective, thus making the formation of the Marine Regions Forum most timely. Ladies and gentlemen, the Forum has its work cut out for it. I give you as an example of the urgent work at hand the need for a robust, legally binding agreement for the high seas, providing environmentally required levels of integration. We need to create and enforce new marine protected areas, with a growing demand for 30% of the ocean to be so protected by 2030. We need to put an end to overfishing, illegal and destructive fishing practices, and the harmful distortions of government fisheries subsidies. We need to combat marine pollution, particularly from the plastic plague permeating our world, along with other source-to-sea pollutants like excess nutrients. We need to scale up ocean science, for though great achievements have been made in ocean science, we increasingly understand how little we actually know. And in these precarious times, the precautionary principle is more important than ever. calling for critical judgment on whether we can afford to add new stressors to the ocean's ecosystem when our knowledge of their effects on sustainability is so patently inadequate. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, the Marine Regions Forum can be central to the development of a strategic approach to bring together different parallel global processes and policy frameworks relevant to the ocean. SDG 14 and the 2020 UN Ocean Conference provide the universal vehicles for such a strategic approach, one that recognizes different regional ecosystems, priorities and needs. Therein lies the Forum's great value add for our multilateral processes to conserve and sustainably use the ocean's resources for sustainable development. I look forward to witnessing the good effects of your work when we gather in Lisbon in June next year in support of SDG 14's implementation. And I thank you for your attention.